We begin with a simple claim. Discipleship is not a task for the strong, it's a journey in which the excluded reveal the shape of Christ's path. Let's begin with the Great Commission in Matthew 28. There the disciples are sent out to make disciples. These disciples will take Jesus into the world and begin that fantastic transformation that Jesus speaks about. Go and make disciples of all the nations. Now, oftentimes we read that as a rallying call for expansion. And at one level, it is a rallying call for expansion. Obviously, to make disciples means to add to the numbers of disciples. But I wanted to think about that slightly differently. Let's read it more slowly and more carefully. The command is not about numbers. It's about transformation. So discipleship is not quantitative, it is qualitative. To be a disciple is to learn to live like Jesus, to share in his life, his love, and his way of being in the world. And that invitation is for everyone. But it speaks with special tenderness to the poor, the broken, the weary, those to whom Jesus says, I am with you always. Even at the margins, and maybe even especially there. Now, I don't know if you've really thought about it, but Jesus begins his mission on the margins and stays at the margins. In Luke 4, Jesus stands and declares his mission. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me to proclaim good news to the poor, to set the oppressed free. This is not just like a political aside, it's the core of his identity. Jesus doesn't visit the margins, he begins there, and he never leaves. His entire ministry is shaped by a preferential orientation towards the edge. But there's something even more interesting if we think about it. Oftentimes we do speak about Jesus being on the margins or on the edge, but actually something else was happening. When Jesus moves and sits with the marginalized, he shifts the margins. Think about it. He sits with tax collectors, sinners, prostitutes, not reformed tax collectors, sinners and prostitutes, people who are just going about their business. And that's the space that God chooses to inhabit to make disciples who will change the world. Now over here, there was lots of religion going on, but over here was where God was. So when we talk about discipleship at the margins, we're really talking about reframing the way we see the world and recognizing that the margins are not just the edges, but are actually the center. And what's challenging for many of us about discipleship is it's a movement downwards. It's a sense of descent built into discipleship. Discipleship is to do with giving up the things that we assume the world to be. Martin Luther talks about the theology of the cross. He says that one of the dangers for the church is it chases a theology of glory. It wants earthly power. It wants big things. It wants to see things in the way that the world imagines it to be. And Luther says, look at the cross. Because when you look at the cross, you'll see where Jesus is. And when you see where Jesus is, you'll see what life is like. Life's to do with suffering, to do with brokenness. It's to do with being together in the midst of the complexities of this world. So a theology of the cross sits right at the heart of discipleship, which takes seriously the margins. So in Mark 8, Jesus says, whoever wants to save their life will lose it. Now, that's a hard word. Discipleship means letting go of prestige, power, and self-protection. It's a movement from safety to solidarity. That's a beautiful movement. It's a movement from alienation to belonging. It's a path of descent, not ascent. But when we go down, we discover that's the places where Jesus is. So the margins aren't a mission field. They're a spiritual location. They're not a problem to solve, but a pilgrimage to make. Now, one of the interesting things that we oftentimes ask ourselves is, who are we to learn our discipleship from? Obviously, the original disciples learned the discipleship from Jesus. Who do we learn our discipleship from? Well, obviously, we learn it from Scripture. We follow the teachings of Jesus and we understand discipleship in relation to his ministry. But discipleship also has to do with the way that we learn from one another. We disciple one another in that way. The only reason I managed to get through my own Christian journey is because other disciples have helped me. They've taught me things, they've walked with me, they've shaped me and formed me in ways that I sometimes resisted and sometimes loved. But ultimately, my discipleship is something that's always been done in the community. So discipleship is shaped by the voices we hear and trust. Now, the edge of the church is not silent. It's a singing, groaning, proclaiming community. Those on the margins are not silent. There's something happening here. If we're serious about following Jesus, we must be serious about listening to the wounded and learning our discipleship from the wounded as well as the strong.